Welcome everyone to FlexWorld 2.0, a global conference a global conference where the future of work meets the office of tomorrow. We're Viviana and Miriana, part of the customer success team at OfficeRnD, and we're super excited, as you can probably see, and honored, of course, to be moderating today's event here at the Loading Bay. A great venue, well known for its industrial design, an ideal location in the heart of London tech ecosystem. Honestly, the conference wouldn't be possible without the support of our partner and host, TechSpace Shoreditch. Thank you a lot for having us today. Now, let us tell you a bit more about the conference, the schedule, and the program that we have prepared for you today. OfficeRnD FlexWorld is an event dedicated to the opportunities and challenges of the coworking, flex space industry, and the hybrid work. Last year, we organized our very first virtual conference. The circumstances back in 2021 did not allow us to realize the format offline, but here we are today, together. This year, the focus of the conference shifts towards the cross-section between the co-working spaces and the hybrid companies. We will dive deeper into the role of the office as a cultural and collaboration hub. We'll also hear more about the engagement tools that simplify cross-team collaboration and how these tools give people everything they need to thrive in the workplace of the future.
Today we'll reveal the secrets to effective hybrid management and development and how those influence employee experience, the collaboration, the knowledge sharing in the new hybrid environment. Before we dive deeper into the topics that we have prepared for you today, we'll just briefly share with you what the structure will be. So we'll have entirely 7 sessions. And of course, in the spirit of hybrid work, our format will not make an exception. We'll have one entirely online session, one hybrid session. Some of the people will join us online, the other will be here on site. We'll also have one coffee break, which will be around 3:30, and we'll wrap the day with a cocktail around 6:30. For those who are attending virtually, there will be 2 exclusive sessions that will reveal the product updates in the Flex and Hybrid product, and they will take place during the coffee break and the cocktail. So after the event, all the attendees on site and online will receive the recordings of the sessions that we'll hear today together with the product updates. And of course, we know that time is precious, so let's not waste it. We'll start the day with a keynote speech by the biggest fan of flexible working and the driving force of the workplace revolution, the CEO of OfficeRnD, Miro Miroslavov. He's a software, woo! He is a software engineer who turned into a tech entrepreneur, and since 2015, he's on a serious mission to make the flexible working the way of working. Actually, since then, he grew OfficeRnD from inception to a global company with 4 offices throughout the globe, and we currently serve more than 1,000 clients across the globe. So let's give our chief visionary of OfficeRnD a huge round of applause and welcome him on stage.
Yeah, thank you, girls. Yeah, well, as a software engineer, I love public speaking, so I'm looking forward to that. So first of all, thank you so much for joining us today. FlexWorld is truly a dream come true for all of us at OfficeRnD. We've been dreaming to have a physical event for a couple of years. Then obviously COVID happened and that wasn't very possible. But now we are extremely happy to see you all here and so many of our partners and customers in London, as well as everyone else online. But before we continue, we want to take a moment and acknowledge the fact that this is not a lonely celebration today. Yesterday saw the state funeral of Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II and a public holiday for everyone in the UK to allow everyone to afford them the opportunity to mark Her Majesty's passing following a national period of mourning. As a foreigner, I can say that Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II was not just a true leader of the United Kingdom, but the entire world, and it's a huge loss for all of us. So please allow me to read a quote from her that really aligns with our whole industry. I know of no single formula for success, but over the years I have observed that some attributes of leadership are universal and are often about finding ways to encouraging people to combine their efforts, their talents, their insights, their enthusiasm, their inspiration to work together. I think that's quite powerful and really stands by the whole co-working and flexible working industry. And now, please also let me invite my dear friend and a true pioneer of the co-working and flex space industry, the founder and CEO of Liquidspace, Mark Gilbreath.
Hello, brother.
Hello, Mark. So, yeah, maybe should we sit or?
No, let's stand.
Yeah, let's stand. Good.
I'm a mover.
Good. So let's talk about a rather sensible topic, the office apocalypse. And I think we're going to mark the third year in a row this September of the great office return that won't really happen. We're seeing a consistent trend of averaging a 40% occupancy across most parts of the world. And also a consistent 50% office demand for new office leasing. So a lot of people are still asking the question, is the office dying? Is it going to die or what's happening? So
yeah, and for some, apocalypse might be a severe word. And for most in our industry, the broader office market, I think it's an inconvenient truth. If you click again, Miro, last November at Coronet Global in Seattle, I put this slide up as the opening slide of my presentation, and I didn't call it an apocalypse, but I did call it a $4 trillion dumpster fire. And there were some gasps and some laughter in the audience, but a lot of people leaning forward. Nearly 12 months later, there aren't too many people that can hide behind the shallow belief that we're simply going to be returning to the way things were before. And as Miro said, we're 3 years in now of the great return to office that will never be, at least not in the way that it was in 2019.
Yeah.
In fact, we think that this age that we're in now, as we look forward, as we begin to act on the future of work today, it's vital that we bury the past. We need to bury the office commute. We need to bury the soul-sucking office environments that maybe lacked diversity, that sat underutilized and put too much of a footprint on the planet. Employers, employees, and the planet all demand something other than simply a return to the office commute and the office as it was. And I think that's a principle that Miro and I both share in our companies.
Great. And yeah, we see clearly that the employees today have a new voice, and they are absolutely loud and clear, saying that 9 out of 10 do not want to return to the office full time. And also 5 out of 10 say that they will actually rather leave their companies than returning to the office full time, which is pretty powerful.
Was it Isaac Newton or Archimedes that said, "Give me a big enough lever and I can move the world"? Was that Sir Isaac Newton? It may have been. But you've heard the term, "Give me a large enough lever and I can move the world." Employees are now that lever. As Miro said, they have voice, and they're being listened to by the employers. And companies that will be proven to be on the right side of history are listening to that global voice now. Companies like Spotify, who began hiring aggressively anywhere over the last 2.5 years, now recognize that work can happen anywhere, not just in those designated company locations. Employers like Okta quickly recognize that The office no longer could be a prescriptive environment, but it needed to be reactive to the needs of the employees. Firms like VMware understood, with 34,000 employees scattered around thousands of locations, that the decision about how to work on a given day, whether it's Miro's home or the co-working space down the street or a hub across town or a company location further afield, that decision needs to lie with the employee, not with the manager or the company, even if they're well-intentioned. And massive organizations like the US government, the GSA is our government entity, that arguably is the largest owner of corporate office real estate in the world, now recognize that above and beyond simply providing flexibility and choice, there are massive benefits to be had in terms of diversity, in terms of agility, and in terms of environmental sustainability. These are the principles that, as a chorus, are what we're hearing again and again now by companies that are acting upon these new realities. And we think that those are the principles that are on the right side of history.
Yeah. I think it's now getting clearer than ever before that the workplace of the future is actually a continuum, not just an HQ isolated somewhere in the center, certainly not just home, which is completely isolated, but the combination of home, of HQ, and also, very importantly, a lot of and a network of on-demand spaces, flexible spaces that can give variety and optionality to everyone involved.
And I think Miro at OfficeRnD and Liquidspace, certainly, we want to reclaim the definition of what hybrid means. And amongst the traditionalists that have perhaps been quietly hoping for a return to things as they were in 2019, one of the definitions you'll hear of hybrid amongst the traditionalists or the conservatives is, well, hybrid is the new reconfigured corporate office and home. No, we reject that. I think we firmly believe that hybrid is that complete continuum. It's home, yes. It's the corporate portfolio, right-sized, yes. But it is the near infinite array of spaces that lie in between. It's all of those things. Hybrid is that continuum, not just fixing and relaying out the corporate headquarters and buying new furniture. No, it is anywhere the people choose to be.
So we believe that the salvation for both companies and the real estate industry as a whole will come from this hybrid workplace, one where employees can choose where it works.
And much of the time that may be home. On a given afternoon, that might be a quiet co-working space near home to concentrate if home is distracting. The next day, that might be meeting up with colleagues at a hub to collaborate. And that same week, that might be gathering with the entire team at a corporate office for some larger scale function. It's all of those rhythms, not any one. Work is all of those different patterns, and the blend of all of those patterns across a work day, a work week, a work month, taps across all of those environments, across that full continuum. And that is what we think of as work from where it works. And I'll stress, work from where it works is dictated by who? By the company, by the employer? No. Work from where it works is where you decide on a given day.
It's pretty powerful. Ooh. Sorry. So, in order for the office providers to get to utilize this new hybrid work, they will need new superpowers. So that's why we listened and we listened to a lot of our customers that actually there is a big demand for what we call a hybrid product to be fully integrated within our Flex product. What does that mean is actually giving the opportunity of companies to be able to use hybrid working environment within the context of a co-working space. So imagine a 20 people company sitting in an office for 10, but also utilizing the full capabilities of what we call OfficeRnD hybrid, which basically streamlines and helps with the whole scheduling nightmare of different teams within that office and everything that relates to that. So basically, that integration will allow you to attract broader customer base. Obviously, the bigger the bigger the companies you can attract to your spaces, the better. So the bigger variety, and actually it's a win-win situation to have more and more bigger companies in actually smaller, let's say, private offices. It's a win-win because it can help you increase revenue, but also it's better in terms of price that the end customer will pay.
So just as realizing the magic, the potential, the energy of hybrid, just as Miro touched on, it's going to require some new superpowers for space providers. And I know a great many of the people listening online today and also in the room are on the space provider side. But tapping the potential or unleashing the potential of hybrid also requires that employers be equipped to do things differently. They're going to need new superpowers that they never imagined they would need or could have in the 2019 world. And those superpowers include?
Yeah, we are hugely excited to also announce the truly first total hybrid work platform, as we say. So we integrated OfficeRnD hybrid with Liquidspace platform, and the end result is an unbelievable solution that gives one platform and access to any workplace to anyone working in a hybrid way of working. So unpacking that, like, what's the problem? Like, superpowers are great if there's something to flex on or to use it against. So what's the problem that employers need to solve for? Well, Spotify is an example of this first challenge. Spotify began hiring in an entirely different way in 2020. The pandemic had begun, and they very quickly relaxed and opened up their hiring principles rather than focusing on competing for talent just in the markets where they had office real estate. They began to hire globally. It was an expectation of candidates, but it also was something they leaned into. And in 2 short years, 40% of their workforce became something massively distributed, to the point where bringing a conventional or traditional real estate approach to where all of their people were was completely implausible. They needed a superpower to be able to provide place wherever their employees choose to be. You can't do that with a 10-year lease. You can't do that with an 18-month design and build cycle. You don't have the time to do it. You don't have the economics to do it. And in many of the places where people are choosing to be, it might be 1 employee in a mountain town in Europe. It might be 15 employees in a new market like New Orleans. The challenge was, how can I efficiently deliver place wherever it's needed, for whatever duration it might be needed for? That play didn't exist in the playbook in 2019. It does today. Second superpower, I'm a company. I'm Spotify, I'm VMware, I'm the GSA, I'm AT&T. Do you think those companies are simply going to say to their employees, hey, Vinay, good luck. You have permission to work anywhere you might like to. Off you go to Google, find what you can, send us the bill. Chris, is that how the BBC would have approached it? I think not. I think our observation was that large organizations aren't simply going to give permission and let go. They have a moral and a legal obligation to apply a duty of care to the activities of their employees, but they also want to maintain a measure of oversight and control. They want to be able to have line of sight to spend. They want to have line of sight and oversight over quality. Again, they have a moral and legal obligation to make sure that the places that their employees are choosing are safe and fit for work. So the superpower is, how do I give employees access to work anywhere without losing control? In addition, and thankfully the planet and organizations are waking up to another dimension where a superpower is desperately needed: reducing footprint. Let's break that apart into both its economic as well as its environmental dimensions. Chris Kane and I have had discussions about this imperative for too many years now. Thankfully, the planet is beginning, or the company is beginning to act on it. But there is no debate whatsoever about the gross inefficiency of the way we have used commercial real estate for the purposes of work. Pre-pandemic, well understood, although hidden perhaps by many, well understood that the typical workplace was being utilized, 30 to 40% of the time on a given day. Those numbers would be glorious in contrast to what we're seeing today, right? And so there's no more hiding, world, from that gross inefficiency. We are not
going to be able to continue forward deploying real estate and workplace specifically as in such a gluttonous fashion as we did in the past. And so the means to be able to have oversight and measurement and control over the economic efficiency of real estate spend and the gross footprint are a superpower that companies and employees now expect to be a part of how they use real estate.
And yeah, probably the one thing that's paralyzing our whole industry and all the companies is the lack of data. No one knows where people are actually working, and we have no data for almost anything that relates to the workplace at this moment. And we firmly believe that getting all the data together for how the HQ is being utilized, how the different spaces being utilized, where people work from home, and being able to analyze that data will give us enough information to learn and to adapt our workplace strategies so that they cater for the needs of the people.
I was talking to a vice chairman level senior broker at one of the household name service provider firms in San Francisco 2 weeks ago. And we were having a familiar conversation, but he put a new level of emphasis on it than I'd ever heard in his voice. And he talked about the outright paralysis that his major tech clients in the Bay Area, and I could rattle off some names you'd find familiar, but he was talking about how paralyzed the real estate and workplace organizations are with regards to making just fundamental decisions. On one hand, they're being pressured to reduce cost, and they're being told to prepare for and anticipate the return to work. But the paralysis comes from the fact that they understand in their soul that the data models, the programming principles that were comfortable and proven for them and they could have easily and confidently applied in 2019 to lay out a new campus simply weren't relevant. And they were terrified to make the next decision, whether that was to renew the lease on the term that's coming up, whether that was to proceed with the paused acquisition of a new property, whether that was to let go of that property altogether and throw their employees toward concepts like flex. They're paralyzed by uncertainty. Occupiers are paralyzed, building owners are paralyzed, and to this comment on stage here now, to the superpower of learning continuously, I think we have a humility that data is going to be vital. For all parties serving the flexible office ecosystem, co-working operators will need data to understand how and where to build properties and how to price it and how to think about and serve a whole new category of client that may have been a stranger in the past, enterprise employees. Building owners need to understand how much of their assets should they devote to this new concept of flex. Occupiers are hungry for data that can give them a measure of confidence to make any decision, some decision. And so a superpower that we're incredibly excited about is how do we put data around the totality of workplace? If Vinay might be working at home on one day, at a co-working space down the street on another with Simon, and on a third day at some other location, it's that full spectrum that workplace leaders and building owners both need to understand. They need to understand what the patterns of work are in all the places that happen. And so learning continuously is about unlocking that data set in a powerful new way.
Yeah. So let's work together and make the flexible working the way of working. And stay tuned for a demo at the end of the day, so 5:30. We'll give a pretty nice demo of everything that we talked today with Mark, and I'm so much looking forward to that.
You've got 7 amazing panels coming up. These opening remarks were meant to whet your appetite for the day, and also hopefully sink the hook in for a bigger reveal on the way we're integrating our 2 products, which we'll show you this afternoon. Thanks.
Thank you, Miro and Mark, for opening the conference today and giving us so much things to ponder about from the very beginning. In the beginning, in the middle, and towards the end of your conversation, we heard one word: data. Data is king, data is powerful, and data is definitely something that's related with our first session. Our first session will be dedicated to the exciting subject of innovation and technology.